believe in our bottom left corner is where you're going to find our Seat 1 Stella Lee player. Just going to go ahead and pull up the deck list here. Our Stella Lee player will be our Seat 1. Looks like keeping a hand of 6. Marilyn up in the top left. Top right, looks like we got some partners. Bottom right, we have Atraxa. So that's the way that our rounds are going to shake out today. We'll have Caden here, Stella Lee combo. You know the drill, Cerulean Wisp effects, stuff like that. Your untap, Stella Lee effects. As our players will go ahead and start the game here. Our Stella Lee player will go Island. Chromox, we're going to pick a card to exile here. And Caden will exile title card. Name escapes me one moment. Title Boar, and that will be the end of the turn. Hakeem here on Maryland. That will be a Lotus Petal as the start for the turn. Then we'll have a Flooded Strand Cracked. There's 3 mana, the Crack and the Shock on the Watery Grave. Correction, not 3 mana, 3 life. Let's see what they want to do with this mana. Here's a Lotus Petal, Crack, Wild Growth. Wild Growth and Chance of Land, then sure. We'll get 2 mana. Demonic Tutor. Oh no. Correction. We'll get a second update on what that card is in just a moment. Discarding an additional card. That looks like that'll be the play until we go over to Robert. Robert here in the top right corner of your screen will be on Lucas the Sharpshooter and Will the Wise. Blue Farm colored partner commanders at 2 CMC each. And then seat 4 will be Dustin on Atraxa Grand Unifier. So if you're just joining us, we're at the start of round 3 in our 4-round event, MindBreak Magic cEDH tournament, here hosted at Tricky's Cards and Games in Kathleen, Georgia. We appreciate everybody who's still here, sticking around, kicking it with us. And let's see. We'll go a Llanowar Elves and pass. So a Tutor to the top, Vampire, or correction, Llanowar Elves and pass. We'll pass over to Robert again on the 2 CMC Blue Farm color combination, non-green. And we'll go City of Brass and Assault Ring, looks like. And we'll go land in seat 4. Here's a Mox Diamond, discarding a Breeding Pool. And we'll go ahead and fetch now. Let's see what our players get up to. Maryland deck up there in the top left is a sneaky cool commander. It might be one of the most recent ones. It was printed in the Lorwyn Eclipse Commander set, I believe. It's a 2 black, green, blue, 5 mana total for a 4/5 flyer that whenever it or another elf enters, it exile the top 2 cards of the opponent's library. That's really the effective text box on that creature. As we see, our seat 4 player will go Mystic Remora, not as good as seat 1, but still good. Off of the fetch to a Tropical Island. Mox Diamond tap for Mystic Remora. Tropical Island tapped for a Carpet of Flowers. And we're off to seat number 1. Stella Lee, bottom left-hand corner. Here's a land. Here's cast Stella Lee. We might try to see a turn 3 push, so we'll have to see where that goes. But for right now, it'll be a pass of the turn over a top left player, Hakeem. On Maryland, Fey Ascendant. Here's an, not Eldrazi Displacer, the one that combos with Food Chain. Eternal Scourge. Here's Eternal Scourge, there's 3 mana, a lot of hand waving, probably a lot of, I don't know if I can get there, but Eternal Scourge for value, potentially, but we'll pass the turn over to Robert there in the top left, top right corner of the screen. We'll go to Robert, we'll see. And here's 2 mana for a permanent base spell. That's not a Ristic. Oh, it is. It might be Ristic. It does look like Ristic to me, in fact, actually. So it looks like a Ristic and pass. From Robert up in the top right, it'll go over to Attraction in the bottom right. Dustin, he will pay for the Mystic Remora and pass. Couple of cards drawn, but Vernic Catacombs will come down to be fetched, much to the chagrin of our Stella Lee player, who will just go Cascade Falls or Cascade Bluffs, the blue-red filter land, and just a pass. So 3 lands and 4 mana total. It'll go up to Hakeem, Maryland player, in the top left corner of your screen. We got a lot of action. Our players are playing quick. They're playing with purpose. We're in turn number 3. Hakeem will go Crop Rotation from the Underground Sea with the Wild Growth. Remora trigger. Unknown if there was a payment for the Ristic study. I did not see Robert draw, so potentially. Crop rotation on the Marsh Flats. Marsh Flats will leave. We'll see what Marsh Flats will go and get. Marsh Flats is able to, or correction, a crop rotation, sacrificing the Marsh Flats, is able to go get a Gaia's Cradle, and that's just what will happen. We are right here in the thick of the action. A lot of players making a lot of moves, a lot of control pieces on the board though. Don't forget about that. Don't forget about the Mystic Remora, the Ristic Study, the Carpet of Flowers, enabling our Atraxa player to have more and more mana. However, there's only 1 island in play for 2 players, so that Carpet of Flowers is not going to pick up any more than 1 mana. And here we go. Back over to Robert in the top right-hand corner of your screen. They will play an Arid Mesa. Arid Mesa will fetch. And we have Will the Wise and Lucas the Sharpshooter. Or, correction, yeah, Will the Wise, Lucas the Sharpshooter. Partner commanders with friends forever. As the Arid Mesa is going to see a volcanic island fetched into play. So City of Brass, Volcanic Island, Soul Ring, and a handful of cards in hand. Might feel like a million to the opponents. A lot of stuff there is able to be done. Cannot cast both commanders right now, though, as we might see one come down here. Here's 1 mana for the City of Brass. Here's Lucas the Sharpshooter. 2 mana, 1/3, sacrifice an artifact, deals 1 damage to target creature, and goad that creature. Trying to keep stuff off the board. Maybe a Llanowar Elves. Maybe a Stella Lee with a couple of untaps. But on the end step of our top right-hand corner player, Robert, on their end step, we'll see a Verdict Catacombs cracked from our seat 4 bottom right player, Dustin. See what the Verdict Catacombs will go get. Stella Lee is super hard to interact with if you're planning on getting rid of Stella Lee with Lucas, although Llanowar Elves is ripe for the picking. That seems to be the only thing on the board right now that is beneficial once the turn cycle comes back around and Lucas no longer has Summoning Sickness. Will the Wise will enable our Lucas Will player in order to get more artifacts in play when that does come down, as Mystic Remora will be paid the 2 age counters here on the last turn of turn 3 in the turn cycle. Dustin, bottom right hand corner of your screen. And if you're just joining us, again, we are in turn number 3. We're in round number 3 here at MindBreak Magic cEDH event in Kathleen, Georgia, hosted at Tricky's Cards and Games. Is the bottom right hand corner player, seat 4, Dustin, will pass after paying the Mystic Remora age counter tax, cumulative upkeep, and playing a Marsh Flats. That will pass on over to Stella Lee in the bottom left hand corner. That's our seat 1. That's turn number 4, the first turn number 4 of this game. They will play a Flooded Strand and pass. We'll go over to Hakeem on Maryland. Maryland looks like a pretty base food chain deck, as last turn our Maryland player Hakeem did play Eternal Scourge just for value, just for free. Hey, let me get this down. Let me just play this card here, for no reason. No need to blow it up. No need to worry about it. I got a free 3/3 that just happens to go infinite with a card that I have. And then a crop rotation into Gaia's Cradle is certainly a lot less appealing to the other players, as it looks like it'll be an untap and a pass from our Maryland player. It'll go over to Robert in the top right corner of your screen. This is seat number 3, turn number 4, as they will play a Stormkiln Artist for 4 mana and 1 life off the City of Brass, and we'll play Stormkiln Artist. Bottom right hand corner of your screen will be seat 4. Again, if you're just joining us, this is round number 3. We're looking at seat number 4, bottom right hand corner. That is Destin on Atraxa on the end step of the former player above them, who fetched a March Flats on their end step. So we'll go to Dustin's turn, the bottom right hand corner. We'll see 3 mana paid for the age counters, cumulative upkeep on Mystic Remora. Everybody playing very safe, but Dustin dedicated to the cause. He knows that his game can happen a little bit later, and it can be a game changer on Atraxa. We'll recap the players here. On the bottom left-hand corner is seat 1, that's Stella Lee. That is Caden. And the top left, that is Marilyn, being played by Hakeem. The top right, that is Will, the Wise, and Lucas, the Sharpshooter, on being played by Robert. Bottom right-hand corner of the turn that we are on right now is Dustin on Atraxa Grand Unifier. Here's a land for turn, Savannah. Here's 1 mana. Here's 2 mana from the pre-combat main phase. Here is a Demonic Tutor. Carpet of Flowers on the board, enabling that 1 extra mana. So Demonic Tutor. In response to Demonic Tutor, we have a couple of triggers. Ristic Study will not be paid. Robert, top right, will draw 1. Bottom left, Caden on Stella Lee will fetch the Flooded Strand. We'll go get a, looks like Volcanic Island. And Demonic Tutor looks to be good to resolve, as Dustin, the bottom right-hand corner on Atraxa, will in fact take his library and start searching. A lot of things can come out here from Dustin off of this Demonic Tutor. Good controlling deck list, but could go get some sort of silence effect, potentially. Could go get, just a free win con. Again, Food Chain, 2 out of 4 of these decks at the table. Both green decks at the table, in fact, playing Food Chain. So that could be another one on the mind of our players, as bottom left looks like potentially in the end step, our bottom left-hand corner player will cast a Jessica's Will. So I would say that's probably not in the end step, likely in the main phase of our seat 1 Stella Lee player, Caden, probably in their main phase. But here comes a Jessica's Will. Looks like 5 might be the max, but here's a Ristic Study, not paying the 1. So Robert will have 6 cards in hand, or maybe 7, maybe 8. And exiling the top 3. Here's a Wheel of Fortune. Here's a Mox Diamond. Here's a Mystic Remora. So Jessica's Will coming down, making 8 mana, exiling 3 cards that can be cast. Mystic Remora, drawing 2 players' cards. 1, 2. Robert and Dustin, both right-hand side players of your screen, will draw a card from the Mystic Remora. Now we'll decide who else gets to have the fish. And it looks like the Stellar Lead trigger will also happen. That's the second spell cast. So it will exile the top card, which happens to be Lion's Eye Diamond. Until end of turn, Stellar Lead player Caden can play that card. I mean, we're already looking at 2/3 of breach combo here. A very tough breach combo, I will say, with Wheel of Fortune, but is one nonetheless. Does only allow certain players to interact at certain times. Again, you can draw them into interaction, but it is certainly difficult once you have the train rolling off the Wheel of Fortune. That is only 6 cards to be able to replicate that effect every time you do it. So it is certainly something that you can chain yourself into, even in order to chain yourself into more protection by yourself. But it's sort of the expectation is having a large initial amount of cards in your graveyard, which our Stellar Lead player does not at the moment. So we'll have to see. Looks like maybe some cards left into exile, as we'll go over to Hakeem's turn. It looks like a Valley Flood Collar. Again, looks to be in the main phase. No, that would have been end step. So Stellar Lead player will go to the end step. Phases will change. Mana will go away. Valley Flood Collar in the end step, giving it the ability to have no summoning sickness, effective haste on the upkeep of our Maryland player Hakeem in the top left corner of your screen. And decisions here. What will we go with? We have the ability to Food Chain with Eternal Scourge. We have the ability to Retraction Helix with that Valley Flood Collar, although that is costly. A lot of stacks effects on the board, or effective stacks effects, taxing effects, your Rhystic Study, your Mystic Remora, a second Mystic Remora. So maybe that's not the play, but we'll just have to see. Valley Flood Collar was played. Go to the turn, untap, and now decisions for our players. If you're just joining us, we are in round number 3 of our MindBreak Magic cEDH event here, hosted at Tricky's Cards and Games in Kathleen, Georgia. We are in turn number 4. Looks like seat number 3. Seat number 3. It'll go over to their turn. A Smothering Tide will be cast after Hakeem on Maryland, top left, will pass the turn. Smothering Tide will be cast. Mystic. Draw a card. Bottom half of your screen will each draw a card off of the Smothering Tide. Stormkiln Artist should be making a treasure here. And then previously 8 cards in hands from Robert. I know he drew at least one more card, so could be 9 or 10 cards in hand. Likely have to go to the end step, go to cleanup. Discard until 7 cards in hand. Like a Mox Diamond. Oh, maybe things getting discarded here. Just to be clear, looks like a Mox Diamond, a Diabolic Intent for the discard in the end step. Potentially. Just sorting through the hand, trying to create the best 7. I mean, when you draw a bunch of cards off the Rhystic Study, you're going to make a bunch of treasures off the Smothering Tide. You sort of have the ability to leverage your advantage engines in a way that you can just discard cards, even when they're good. Diabolic Intent, great card. Tatar, great card, but maybe they are unnecessary at this very moment for our players. And looks like we go to clean up all the cards aforementioned, plus looks like Coalition Relic was discarded. And finally, the Mystic Remora will die on the upkeep, not a 4th counter on it. As Dustin in our 4th seat, bottom right hand corner, Atraxa will draw a card for turn after letting the Mystic Remora die in the upkeep, not paying the cumulative upkeep trigger. Looks like maybe counting Carpet of Flowers mana. And yep, in fact, counting Carpet of Flowers mana. Targeting Stellar Lee for 2. Here's a Smothering Tithe. And a draw card off the Rhystic Study and the Mystic Remora trigger. Another card drawn, another treasure made by Robert. We'll say the right side of your screen, third and fourth seat, Robert and Dustin, respectively, are the only two players with a match point here. 1 point each from a draw earlier. So a win here is big for every single one of these players. So that's what we want to encourage here. We want to make sure that everybody is encouraged to win, play their best. It looks like that's a Delighted Halfling coming down from Dustin after the Smothering Tide. Looks like not paying the 1. Robert up in your top right is going to draw a card, and that will let Dustin in the bottom right make a treasure. A lot of value engines here. If you're just joining us again, this is round number 3 at Tricky's Cards and Games hosting MindBreak Magic cEDH event. We are in, I believe, turn number 5. Seat number 1, the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, is going to pay 1 on the cumulative upkeep for the Mystic Remora. Stellar Lee exists on the board, but so do a lot of taxing pieces. Rhystic Study, Smothering Tithes galore. It's a very tough spot to be, but we'll start with an Arcane Signet. Looks like for 3 mana, denying the Rhystic Study draw. Oh wait, the 1 was to put the age counter. So it is just 2 mana, allowing the Rhystic Study player to draw a card, allowing Dustin, our Atraxa player, to make a Smothering Tithe treasure. And Lion's Eye Diamond, exiled last turn from Stellar Lee, a second spell per turn. So Lee does say until the end of your next turn you may play that card. So Lion's Eye Diamond is cast. Here comes a mountain. Or it says you may play that card. Lion's Eye Diamond was still cast though. But here comes a mountain for turn. And it looks like a pass on over to Hakeem. The mountain was exiled off Stellar Lee because Arcane Signet plus Lion's Eye Diamond was 2 spells. That's how that mountain got into play there. Top left, back on turn 5. Hakeem, Maryland, Fey Ascendant, draw, pass. It's going to go over to Robert in the top right. Lucas and Will partners. And there's a draw for turn. Here's a Smothering Tithe trigger. Robert's deciding, debating. What does he have in his hand? Will that affect if he pays for the Smothering Tithe? What does Dustin have in his hand? Looks like no pay for the Smothering Tithe, as we'll have the Bloodstained Mire played as land for turn in the pre-combat main phase. And looks like Bloodstained Mire will take a fetch. So we'll see what that goes and gets from this 4-color commander player, non-green. So anything mountain or swamp, fair game from the Bloodstained Mire. Badlands, the play. And our players have taken a rapid 5 turns to figure out how to maneuver through this game, even with all the game actions, value pieces, taxing pieces on the board. They've taken a good amount of turns here. They've played quick. They played efficient. They know what their game plan is. These players, some of the best players that we got here. Unfortunately, the players on the right do only have 1 point. Players on the left only have 0 points. So a match win here is a must. Every player thinking it. Every player going for the ability to have a a match win and 5 points added to their standings. And looks like here's 2 mana from the Soul Ring. Here's a Simian Spirit Guide. Here is a Hexing Squelcher, leaving 1 in the pool. Hexing Squelcher can't be countered, has ward, pay 2 life. It gives all your spells can't be countered, and gives all your creatures ward 2 life. So here comes Hexing Squelcher. New card from Lurelin Eclipse. Game-changing card for cEDH here. Every deck that plays red is going to want one. Let's see what Robert is going to do here now that all of his spells are uncounterable. Here's an uncounterable Silence. That's going to make some players look at their hands. Here's a Mystic Remora trigger from our Cell Elite player. Maybe not free interaction, but maybe some paid interaction. Maybe there's some return spell. Maybe even a MindBreak trap will take care of this as well. Debating on the draw one, and the draw one will happen. Smothering Tide trigger from our rightmost players. Robert on top, Dustin on bottom. And we'll see where that goes. Draw a card, nothing doing. Yep, 1 mana floating from the Soul Ring off of the Hexing Squelcher cast, so that's correct here. And we'll see a Pyro Blast targeting a permanent. We're going to target Rhystic Study potentially and paying the 1. That's what it looked like. And looks like there goes Rhystic Study. Power Blast paying the 1. Target Rhystic Study is where we're at. Silence, uncounterable, back on the stack. It is uncounterable due to Hexing Squelcher being in play. Only 2 spells have been cast for 1 singular player this turn. So no MindBreak trap online for free. And looks like that Silence will resolve. All the players say, yep, that's good with me. I don't have anything to stop an uncounterable spell. So we'll see what Robert here, seat number 3, turn number 5 is going to do. Looks like a Wishclaw Talisman is going to come into play. Here's a Mystic Draw. Here is a Treasure. And second treasure. If Robert keeps missing these triggers, this will be the second treasure that he's missed out on. That should put them at 4, but looks like we're going down 2. A little forgetful here. Let's hope that doesn't hurt them. And Wheel of Fortune. Plus Stormkiln Artist. I mean, a lot of treasures here being missed. But certainly going to make a lot of treasures here off the Smothering Tithe. So will Dustin, the bottom right-hand corner. And it looks like we got a card being cast in response. Or maybe channeled from a land. That could be... Boseiju. And it looks like a Wishclaw Talisman activation in response to the Boseiju, potentially. Does look like a Boseiju to me, so we'll have to see where that goes. That art is the borderless art from Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. So Wishclaw Talisman activation on the stack, going to give the Wishclaw over to the opponent last to Robert, which is in your top left corner, Hakeem on Maryland, Fey Ascendant. Boseiju here is trying to get rid of the Smothering Tide, trying to stop enabling Robert here for the effects. Deflecting Swats will be the cast. Looks like Deflecting Swat is probably going to make Boseiju target Dustin's own Smothering Tithe. Here's more treasures off the Stormkiln Artist. There goes Dustin's Smothering Tithe. Boseiju channel ability has resolved. And And with the full ability of Boseiju, Dustin will put a scrub land into play. Here's 3 mana, make it 4. Here's an Otawara, bouncing the Smothering Tide. Once again, there looks to be an ad nauseam in hand of our top right player, but Dustin looks to have all the responses, a Boseiju and an Otawara. That's huge here. One more spell cast does give Robert the 5th treasure, but I'm not sure if they're able to have a free effect here in order to enable that. A lot going on here. Again, if you're just joining us, this is round number 3 at MindBreak Magic cEDH tournament here at Tricky's Cards and Games in Kathleen, Georgia, and we're in a moment right now. Looks like there's a Wheel of Fortune on the stack for the Smothering Tithe player in the top right corner of your screen, Robert, and Robert's trying to resolve this Wheel of Fortune, and Dustin, the bottom right, just has all the answers. Boseiju, but it was deflecting swatted. Otawara, that seems to be the discussion here. Hexing Sculpture is on the board for Robert, top right corner of your screen. That's the active player. So this Wheel of Fortune is not going to be countered. However, that Smothering Tide sure can be bounced. So the Boseiju did not work. The Otawara might. We'll have to see what he wants to do. There's already an ad nauseam in hand for Robert up in the top right, so we'll keep an eye on that, see how that plays into this effect. Again, a free effect here, counterspell or otherwise, will certainly enable that. There is a silence affecting the entire table. That's why not only Hexing Sculpture is keeping things from being countered, but the silence is also stopping the table from being able to interact. That's why the channel abilities from Otawara and Boseiju both were so valuable in that exchange. Looks like 1 mana. Not sure what happened to the Wheel of Fortune. Wheel of Fortune didn't get stopped. So and looks like we got a card here that might be a Mystical Tutor. Again, some of these alt arts do make it a little difficult, but I'm certainly trying my best here. So it'll be placed on the stack here, as we'll see how that gets to resolve. Fierce Guardianship will be cast in order to chain the treasure. Fierce Guardianship holding priority. Yep, down to 3. Fierce Guardianship. Could even be a Born. I'm not quite sure what the original card is there, but that still does allow 5 mana here. We'll just have to see how our players want to react to this, knowing that Robert here is definitely counting to 5. And it looks like that'll go away. like 5 mana here will again be on the stack. Here is Ad Nauseam. 1 treasure from Stormkiln Artist. Again, silence affecting the board here. So not only that, the ability of Hexing Sculpture to have spells not be countered. And it looks like we're flipping. Here's looks to be a Dark Writ. Scalding Tarn, as we're going through Ad Nauseam flips here in round 3 in our feature match area. Swan Song. Down to 30, 0 Chromox. We'll go MindBreak Trap, here's 4. Ranger Captain of Eos, there's 3. Down to 23, we'll see if our player can piece it together. Still only 1 mana up, but that does allow Dark Ritual to be enabled. I don't believe they played a land this turn. They played a Bloodstained Mire last turn, I believe. So land drop's still available. Here's a Gamble. Gamble's a big help. Gamble does let you chain treasures, especially with all the cards you're about to put in your hand with Ad Nauseam. So Cavern down to 22. Okay, here we go. Back to it. Misty Rainforest. Will be 0. Maybe trying to talk about where they're at. We'll take a second. We have, again, Lucas, the sharpshooter, Will the Wise here for our top right-hand corner player. That's the main phase that we're in right now. Trying to decide what we're going to do about this Ad Nauseam. Down to 21. Down to 21 we go. Again, a match win being very important here for all of our players. There's only 2 points sitting at the table. 1 point for Robert, top right. 1 point for Dustin, bottom right. In our top 10 cut format, a win is invaluable. Being first or second at the end of 4 rounds will put you in first or second seat for the finals. So that's huge. And let's say, thinking about some more Ad Nauseam. I'm not sure what the top end here is on this Ad Nauseam player. I mean, I already have a 4 mana spell out with Stormkiln Artist. Beseech the Mirror's already gone. MindBreak Trap's already gone. There's still Force the Will at 5 mana, but not a lot over that. Smothering Tide is already out has been removed from play. We're going to see where this goes here. as we certainly finish resolving this ad nauseum here, we'll get back to action in the main phase. Some sort of tutor to the top. That was probably the mystical tutor. And the wheel will finally resolve. So all of that was on top of the wheel. It's such an elaborate stack that we have crafted here. With wheels, some removal channels on Otawara to Seiju. Then the ad nauseum on top of that, Mystic Remora, Fierce Guardianship, countering Mystic Remora but not countering it because of Hexing Sculpture. And then finally that ad nauseum after all of that, after making a million mana. I guess the sort of discussion on getting rid of ad nauseum there is more not going or not going for the ad nauseum. I guess is more if the wheel is still on the stack, how does that affect your game plan moving forward? Now, I'm not gonna lie, there were definitely some good cards there from to Robert from the ad nauseum, but mostly a lot of counter spells. And counter spells is not what you want to see here, as Robert does have the entire table under a silence effect. So a lot of cards, a lot of combo pieces, it looks like, goodness, have been discarded. This turn a Brain Freeze in the hand of Robert, so that's going to make some complicated math here. There's only been a handful of spells cast. I mean, one over from Caden in the bottom left, and a handful over in the top right from Robert, maybe about 4 or 5. So storm count is around like 6 or 7 if I were to take a guess. I'm not going too back into it. I do 7 after the Wheel of Fortune has resolved. And we'll see what our players want to do with it. Again, the gamble is probably the most brutal discard off of the ad nauseum on top of Wheel of Fortune. Because that would have just allowed you to chain so easily, so effectively. Just being able to channel with the treasure, get another treasure from Stormkiln Artist. That would have been huge, but that ability is now lost. We'll see where our players want to go. I mean, 7 more cards deep for Robert is certainly a lot, but no treasures after the Smothering Tithe had been dealt with twice. So we'll see where our players go from here. Again, if you're just joining us at the end of a very long turn, we are in round number 3 of our 4-round cEDH event, MindBreak Magic cEDH. And we have gotten rid of 2 Smothering Ties, resolved a Wheel of Fortune on top of, or with an ad nauseum on top of it, after a silence was cast at the beginning of the turn. Now Robert will pass, going down to 7, post the Wheel of Fortune after ad nauseum. That will send the turn over to Dust in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen on Atraxas, or Atraxa player got silenced, got Orm's Chant by Robert up in the top right. At least one combo piece is gone from Stella Lee. I see Cerulean Wisp, the Red Wisp from Stella Lee in the Crimson Wisp correction has already been put in the graveyard off of the Wheel of Fortune. No more taxing effects. I mean, Rhystic Study's gone, Smothering Tides are gone, but our players have a lot of mana advantage, and it's now on Caden to try and figure out, without crafting their hand, after the Wheel of Fortune discard, how they're gonna move forward. So we're gonna start with a Frantic Search. Spell number 1. Let's see what that draws out from the opponents. Draw 2, discard 2, untap 3 lands. No High Tide here. Sad for me as the resident High Tide player, but 3 mana, draw 2, discard 2. You get to see more cards here. Get to try and put together your hand. No more Smothering Tide triggers off the draw too, so that kind of unlocks that card as well. The ability to just use it at all and not benefit your opponent so heavily. Looks like we got land. I couldn't see second card. If second card has already been discarded. And another land, so Minamo and generic full art expedition style land. Here's Lotus Petal. Here's second spell for Stella Lee. And exile, and that will be a Mystical Tutor. Mystical Tutor's huge. That's really big. Well, unknown if our player right now will go for it. Try to right now, but Hakeem up in the top left is going to untap with a fresh 7 and a Wishclaw Talisman given to him from Robert up in your top right. I can't see anything in the graveyard that would make me think the Maryland player, Hakeem, top left, has gotten rid of an essential part of the game plan, the strategy here. So that's also that's a pretty huge threat there as well, especially with the ability to almost unlock Retraction Helix, Flood Collar in the face of not a lot of taxing effects, although there's still a Mystic Remora in play. So, exiled off of Stella Lee activation is Mystical Tutor. Mystical Tutor will be cast, and that will resolve. Likely going to go get a Wisp in order to, some sort of untap effect, I guess. Doesn't have to be a Wisp. Some sort of untap effect can definitely change this game. Tidal Boar's already been exiled under Chrome Mox, so that card's already gone. But, we have a handful of twiddle effects. Refocus will allow draw a card every time. So I mean, there's a lot of good stuff here that can be done. Maybe even looking for a protection spell or a counter spell. Pyroblast already being used from Caden, our Stella Lee player in the bottom left corner of the screen, who's been relatively quiet this game, but threatening nonetheless. Stella Lee being a 2-card combo machine is going to be able to do what Stella Lee does, and that's just win the game when your opponent shields her down. And it looks like that could be the case here. Although let's not count out Dustin, who has 6 lands and 6 other artifact mana, 1 from Mox Diamond, 5 from Treasure, untapped here. And it looks like it will be Cerulean Wisp to the top. 7 fresh cards for everybody at the table. But that doesn't mean interaction is gone. Here's a consider. Surveil 1, draw 1. Now we know we mean business. You can let it resolve, deal with the problem now, counter it, deal with the problem next turn. If Cerulean Wisp is in hand, there's a whole turn cycle that can happen in which that card can be cast. Here's a Chain of Vapor from Hakeem. Here's the question, do you pay the 4? The 4 can be paid. And 4 will be paid. Not drawing the Cerulean Wisp off the top. So here comes Chain of Vapor. If I were to take a guess, that's a chain targeting Stella Lee. Here's a mental misstep. And we got Counterspell backup. Now that might not have been the counterspell you wanted to see, but in this specific circumstance, it is a good one. Here's Force of Negation, exiling card. Looks like Cloud of Fairies. That's a little off screen, so a little harder to see. And we're going to keep fighting over the Stella Lee. That does lose, unless something changes. And it looks like Mystic Remora. Oh yeah, no 4. Here's Mystic Remora. Hold priority, copy, or correction. Yeah, with the Mystic Remora trigger, Caden will draw Cerulean Wisp, hold priority, tap, activate Sisay. Which we have over 3 spells. Frantic Surge, Mystical Tutor, Consider. So that Stella Lee activation is online. So we're going to tap Stella Lee, copy the Cerulean Wisp here. And we're going to go get going with the combo. We're going to keep untapping this creature and keep drawing a card. all for 1 mana. That looks to be some sort of a copy effect token from our player here. So, Cerulean Wisp and the copy on the stack. I think nobody's responding to the trigger, or correction, the activated ability of Stella Lee here. And, this is the threat of Stella Lee. I mean, even though Caden has been relatively silent, a lot of taxing effects at the table is, if you've been here this whole time throughout round 3 here at MindBreak Magic cEDH, there's been a handful, Smothering Tides, Ristics, Mystics, and now the person in control right now left with the only Mystic Remora is Caden and our seat number 1, which is also a huge boost to them. So bottom left-hand corner we have, here's the stack. We have a Consider, Chain of Vapor targeting Stella Lee, Metal Misstep targeting Chain of Vapor, Force of Negation targeting Stella Lee, Cerulean Wisp targeting Stella Lee, Whole Priority, activate Stella Lee. That's the stack right now as it sits, and I think our players are wondering, how did this happen? Because I'm not saying that these players can't have interaction, but these players haven't showed interaction yet since the Wheel of Fortune. Wheel of Fortune, or correction, Force Negation discarded by Wheel of Fortune for Dustin over there in the bottom right at Traxa. Looks like Demonic Consultation in the hand for Dustin here. Maybe trying to talk into a draw. If we go back and look at our standings, our 2 players with points, Robert and Dustin, are sitting at 19th and 21st respectively. So a win here is big. A draw here is certainly not ideal. Any player can offer the draw, and it takes 1 player to refuse the draw. Here's a Bayou for the Demonic Consultation. Demonic Consultation on the stack. They will name a card. They will exile top 6, I believe, and then go search for a card with that name. So likely going to try and get a counter spell, as the Orange Chant was cast on Dustin's turn, so that has right now unlocked Dustin here on Stella Lee's turn. 4 mana paid for the Mystic Remora. Kanan looks like he's got some up his sleeve that will let Demonic Consultation resolve. Not sure what the card named is, but likely MindBreak Trap. Unless they're talking about a draw here, but four mana was paid, so I'm not quite sure what our players are doing here as they try to finish out this game. Here's an Endurance. And we don't have our players mic'd up at this event, so a little hard to interpret kind of what's going on here. Looks like the Library of Dust was exiled. It does seem. So potentially up to Robert here for any sort of interaction. 1 treasure, Hakeem has been the only one interacting, our Maryland player in the top left, with this Stella Lee combo. And we'll have to see what the outcome of that is. It does look like it's a win there for Caden, as we'll continue to draw and untap Stella Lee. Maybe just looking to see what the exact win line was from our Stella Lee player. There is a million mana here. Certainly the possibility to breach to win the game, mill you guys out. No Thoracle being played in this list, so it could be something along those lines of brain freeze, make you all lose the game. The storm count is already extremely high. So I think that's what they're talking about. They're wanting to see how the end game is here, and I think the Underworld Breach might be just enough for our players. So I think we'll wrap it up. And we'll look at the hands, and I think that about wraps it up. It looks like Caden will win this match again. Our Stella Lee player, bottom left corner of your screen. That's a huge win. 5 points here for the win is a huge boost to all of our players, really. If you can get that amount of points. We can recap our standings from at least round 2. Where we only have 8 players with at least one match win. Brandon and Juan in first and second, 10.6 points respectively. We have Jordan, Josh, Cole, all with a match win and a draw at 6 points. Down to top 5, your top 10 is Dalton, Nathaniel, Chris, Sebastian, and Austin. That's your top 10. If we were to end after round 2, round 3, that's the end there of our round 3 coverage.